How do you anticipate addressing the budget deficits, the tremendous budget deficits that the school district is facing?
You know, I take a different approach to what's happening. Here's why. Because we have to have a real conversation and a serious conversation as it relates to the budget. One of the things that, if I'm elected, that I want to do is really comb through the budget. And why do I want to comb through the budget? I want to comb through the budget to really understand the budget because, as I always say to all groups, one, thank you. Thank you for going out and supporting the half-cent sales tax in 2020, right? To date, it has generated over $400 million. We understand that we're sharing that with charter schools. We got that. But one of the things that Dr. Green did, and she had the board to approve, was over a $600 million bond over the next 5 years in order for us to continue to build new schools and keep that process going. So here it is. If we took out a $600+ million bond over here to keep our schools going and new schools being built, and the half-cent sales tax dollars is to pay off the bond, how did we get here? And so we really have to have a real conversation about that. Because when I served on the half-cent sales tax committee, I was honored to serve for 2.5 years as the chair. And so I saw the money. I saw how the money was coming in to the district. Here's the reality. The amount of revenue we're generating with the half-cent sales tax has always exceeded expectation. So we're ahead. So if we're ahead over here, we took out a $600 million bond over here, we now have to comb through the budget and really find out what's happening. Yes, we did get a letter during my time from Tallahassee, and that letter said, hey, we need to give more dollars to the charter schools, which the school district did do. $2-point-something million additionally had to go to the charter schools. And so we did all of that. So now we really have to figure out, are we keeping the promise to the voters? Because we thank them for going out, and then we ask them to go out again in 2022 to raise the millage, to ensure that we're paying, giving increases to our teachers, making sure that we're revitalizing and building new football fields and arts and music. So the question that I have with the district is really making sure that we're really taking a hardcore look at the budget and making sure everything is in alignment, because that's what the voters want to know. Yeah. How did we get here? And that's the question that we have to answer for the voters, to have them have confidence in the process. Because right now, unfortunately, voters don't have confidence in the process because they have already been told that, hey, you took out a half-cent sales tax. How is A-rated schools on the chopping block? And so we have to have a real conversation and really dig deep into our budget. So that was what I will do. I'll take a hardcore look at our budget and really understand the numbers. I'm a numbers person. Yeah. And really try to figure that out so we can really explain to the voters and taxpayers how we really got here.
Okay. So I think also to the community and the voters, transparency is
Absolutely.
Important.
Absolutely.
If you can articulate, just big picture, what criteria will you advocate for if we have to proceed with closing some of our local public schools?
For me, it's always been about one thing, and that's making sure that our community is at the table at every step. As a representative, as a board member, it would be my position and my job to make sure that the community has all of the information in front of them so that we're making this decision together. Not just me as one board member, because I only have one vote, but making sure that at the end of the day, there is nothing behind the scenes going on that they don't know about. Oftentimes, and I can say this as a member of the half-cent sales tax, I was just as shocked as the community was when this rollout happened. And I serve on a committee that's supposed to give transparency and accountability to our community. And so I don't want our community to be caught off guard with any decisions that's being made that affects them directly. I want to make sure that we're working hand in hand and there's a partnership. If they elect me, that's my guarantee to them. My guarantee to them would be that at the end of the day, any information that given, they have, so that we can make informed decisions, especially as it relates to something as big as closing our schools. We live in the neighborhoods that we live in based on our schools. And we already know the track that we want to send our kids on. And so anytime any decision like that happens, our community must be at the table. And they must, as a board member, be vocal so that I can advocate on their behalf. Give you a great example of that. It just happened. This is not, Tiffany, the first time we talked about closing schools. We talked about closing schools under VD. And I went to all of those meetings, advocating that we keep those schools open. When it came down to Brentwood, we fought to keep Brentwood open, making sure that the community had all of the information that was in front of them to keep that school open. The reality of it is, what we have found over the last several years is each time, Tiffany, the district has closed the neighborhood school, a charter school has popped up right across from the closed neighborhood school. We see that with Brentwood. We see that with Henry F. Kite. We see that with many of our schools. And so we have to make sure that the community doesn't feel like they've been tricked or duped into something after having been at the table. And that's how the community feel. Well, you said that, hey, the school is dying off. But then we have a charter school that's at capacity. We have to make sure that the community feels comfortable with the decisions. And so I plan on making sure every decision the community is involved in, and they have the information ahead of time. Nothing is a backroom deal, because oftentimes the community feels like that. Oh, that's done behind in back rooms, and we finding this out now. We shouldn't be surprised by it. I want to be transparent in those decisions, making sure that they're at the table from the beginning to the end, and they'll have a representative who will do that.
It blows my mind that you're on that committee and you found out at the same time as the community. I know, as a Fishware parent, I moved into that neighborhood in order for my daughter to go to Fishware Elementary.
Absolutely.
I know that surrounding communities, they go through the magnet program for their kids to attend Fishware Elementary. So that really blows my mind. I want to stay on this for just a few more
Absolutely.
minutes.
Absolutely.
They're not able to say that some of the schools that are on the chopping block, they can't say they're dying out. They can't say that they're underperforming. Correct. I can speak specifically to, I don't want to just talk about Fishware. There's
John Stockton.
There's parents
John
here
Stockton.
that are here to support all of our, especially our elementary schools.
Absolutely.
A-rated schools, full with wait lists, A-rated staff that has been there for years and
Absolutely.
years. Any insight into, how, why, and how we're going to stop it? I don't want to have this conversation in 3 years.
Yeah, and the reality of it is, will we have to have some serious conversations, Tiffany, as it relates to closing of schools and making hard decisions? Absolutely. Again, I want to give you examples of what's happening currently, because oftentimes we don't talk about what's happening currently, right? So what happened currently this year, when you take a look at RV Daniels, their parents was told months ago that this is your last year. No real communication was given to the parents. We have never done that in Duval County. We have always given a year notice to say we're going to phase this school out and then consolidate with another school. Well, we gave those parents less than a year. I was livid. I went to those community meetings. I have always shown up because it's only fair. And when I showed up to those meetings, it wasn't a lot of parent participation. You want to know why it wasn't a lot of parent participation? Because the parents said the decision was already made. Why should we show up to something if you all already made the decision? But I showed up, and I talked with the school board members, I talked to the superintendent, and I told them how wrong that was for us to close their school down when that has never happened before, and didn't give those parents enough time, because as you know, the school expo had passed. These are students who are in the GATE program, as we have John Stockton, the Gifted and Talented program. And so they didn't get an opportunity to say, hey, you know what, I want to opt out and go to a John Stockton. I want to opt out or go to a Jack Speaks, or I want to opt out and go to somewhere else. They were told, we're going to close, consolidate with R.L. Brown, and that's your new school. That was unfair. And so I fought to keep that school open one more year. Now, I say all that to say this because I want to be transparent, because that's who I am. I get the challenges. School holds about 600-700 students, and we only got 150-something students in it, so we have to make a decision. So I understand that we have to make a decision with the school. But I want to make sure that we're being fair with our parents in making that decision and making sure that they're at the table. And so the merging will happen next year. Parents understand that, so they have a whole year to plan so we have to make sure, again, we're working with our families. Here's the other reality. That's why our families are leaving Duval County Public Schools, because they feel that they're not informed and they're being forced out or pushed out of their neighborhood school. And so we have to make sure that those type of things don't occur in our district.
Let's talk money. How do you anticipate, and you talked a little bit about it, and I'd love to hear a little bit more, how addressing the budget deficits. And you said, like, go in there and look back at what's been done on the past, but this is really impacting our schools.
Right. Well, first, everything is generated. The budget and money, that's the top of everything. It's driven by everything. Some people said, well, Reginald, why are you're talking about budget and monies? No. When you look at teachers, money. When you look at transportation, money. Classroom, curriculum, everything is driven by money. So one of the things that I would want to do is do a statewide forensic audit and really dig down for the last 4 years of where money went at first. Because you can't begin to fix it if you're doing the same thing over and over. So first of all, you need to find out where you are. Do a statewide audit, independent, not to get anybody in trouble, but to find out, what are we doing? Are we overspending in contracts? Are we overspending in maintenance? That's been a big problem. Get down to that, and then start using that money and making wiser decisions in contracting. That's going to be a big one, to see if we can't start, if I can be unorthodox, cut the fat off of a lot of things, just trim it off. That's one thing to do. Then to find out, why are we in I think it's a 1.4 billion deficit. How did we got to find out how we got there first, and then start tackling it. Now, this trickles right down into the school closures because of the money situation. Yes. This is going to be a very, very difficult situation, but not impossible. But that would be the first thing I would do. The second thing I would do is find out where the money is and where we are now. And then I would go to the national level, Department of Education, and see what type of funding can we get to support the schools and try to get, to pay off some of this debt that we have. I mean, I'm pretty sure they have a lot of money up in Washington, D.C., and I'm sure we need to start tapping into that.
They're a little tight with it sometimes.
Yes.
Let's talk about some hard stuff.
Okay.
How do you anticipate addressing the budget deficits that the school district is facing?
Great question, right? When it comes to budget deficits, I believe I'm also the only business owner that's running for School Board District 5. When you look at scalability, when you look at an opportunity to be able to build capacity, capabilities, access to capital, when we look at line items, my job when elected is to go line by line to make sure that there is no waste. And then for those contracts that we have an opportunity to refuse renewal, I want to make sure that we actually evaluate performance before we give a guaranteed renewal. And then we got to look at streamlining services that are duplicated but may not be effective. And looking at opportunities to also pull down dollars in collaboration with federal elected officials, state elected officials, and on the local level. I mean, when we're looking at capital improvement plans pertaining to PICO dollars, my philosophy is that there's gold in the old. What that means is that by the time I get elected and get in office, it may take 4 years before we're able to bring in some new guidelines, new policies. But if I'm able to go back into historic data based on what's already been approved, there may be some overlay to where we don't have to recreate the wheel. And looking at opportunities to be able to tap into some of those PICO dollars as well. I talked to consultants and contractors, and they said that Orlando has the youngest schools in the state of Florida, where Jacksonville has the oldest schools in the state of Florida. And I said, well, how do they do that in Orlando? They said it's simple. We'll take the football field and we'll start a build of the school, and we'll keep the school going so that the children don't have to be displaced. And then after the new school has been developed on the football field, then we'll take the old school and turn it into the parking lot. It's not magic, it's management. And unfortunately, I'm not there yet. I'm running to get elected. And what I make a commitment to you, as well as to all of my constituents, is to be honest, open, and transparent. The power is in the people. The same type of mobilization that it took to put this type of a Q&A together, it's going to take that same type of mobility and mobilization to actually get us across the finish line over the upcoming years.
Awesome, thank you.